taken out of context.
Taken out of context.
Taking things out of context.
Out of context.
Taken out of context.
Taken out of context.
In the context.
We have more context.
Out of context.
Taken out of context.
That is so out of context.
And take shit out of context.
Out of context.
Deeply out of context.
You're taking it out of context.
No, hey, hold on. So we're gonna flesh this out because I don't want nobody saying we don't take things in context.
Clipped me out of context.
It was out of context.
It's hard for your words to be taken out of context.
The full context.
In a modern day context.
Tell me the context.
Another important reminder as to why context is so important. So,
fair use and free speech disclaimer. Gypsy Rose posted on her Instagram that she and Ken are packing for their Valentine's trip, whatever that may be. Alaska 2026, the Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis. Yet Ken absolutely has nothing but 10 posts on Instagram. And he's out here trying to promote Cameo. Himself on Cameo. I don't know about y'all, but this is really weird to me that this guy who barely even had a cameo on a D-rate reality show on some streaming network that had long been bought out because it was going bankrupt by the A&E network, that only had 2 very short seasons, thinking that he's famous enough to be on Cameo. There's something really ironic and very hilarious about that. But that's my thoughts and my opinions and my feelings on it because, I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, we're going to still talk about it, right? He did, however, post 2 things on his stories on Instagram, and it's all about celebrating Mardi Gras. C'est d'où le sont dit connard. Everything is strategic. Everything, even the social media stories and posts. Ken goes live and shows the baby and says, oops, I accidentally showed the baby, after literally saying he's just fucking with people on the internet. He's a jackass. He is a complete jackass, much like Ryan. But Gypsy posts this. Let them be. Let them play the victim. Let them twist the story. Let them talk. Let them believe what they need to believe. You don't owe your truth to people committed to misunderstanding you. Let them go. Let them learn the hard way. Let them sit with themselves when the silence is louder than the chaos they created. Wait a minute, who named their entire YouTube channel Magic in the Chaos, Chaos in the Magic? I mean, you create so much chaos for your committed partner and your child and your family and your friends and your loved ones and your business associates that you quite literally titled your entire channel and platform Chaos. But okay, keep on going here. Protect your peace. Choose your growth. Stand in your integrity. That is your power. At the bottom, quotes and healing. Girl, you have to use Google and Chat GPT. Literally. Not a unique, creative, original idea anywhere in that brain or body. If you truly were sitting with your integrity, if you truly were healing and in your peace era, you wouldn't need to say it. You wouldn't need to do these little Chat GPT type of statements and story times and posts. You would just be doing that, and your actions, words, choices, and behaviors would be a result of that healing and that growth. It would be a reflection of that hard work and time that you say you've spent in therapy. She also did a story time, and thank you to the T page with T. Gypsy is in the middle of an identity crisis. And I'm not going to lie, I liked her natural, thick, dark, regular, normal, untouched hair. She doesn't look bad with a pixie cut at all. And trust me, as a kid, I knew bad hair. I probably had the worst hair until I was older. If you think Gypsy's haircuts were bad when she was a kid, you should see mine. But holy moly macaroni, what do you know? Hair actually grows. Wow! Did you know that Homo sapiens as a species are only categorized by 3 different areas in the world, and so is our hair types? African, Caucasian, Asian. Hair for all 8 billion Homo sapiens typically grows at a rate of half of an inch, 1.25 centimeters per month, about 6 inches every year. No, unfortunately, no shampoo or product or magic pill that you can take makes your hair grow faster. Your hair is always going to grow at the rate that it grows. Age, genetics, overall health, medications, and sometimes very rare diseases or health issues can affect whether or not your particular hair grows faster than what it used to or slower than it used to. And also with aging comes thinning. That's normal. So Gypsy Rose showing that her hair has grown, well, yeah, that's what time does when you leave it alone. It grows, and it's going to grow about 6 inches a year if you continuously let it grow. Let it grow. Let it grow.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, I didn't know you're up here, girl.
Hey,
Man.
I just wanted to tell you, I really admire how you stood up for Bree tonight.
Yeah, apparently Gypsy's friend Bree was arrested again between the 4th and the 5th, related to 6 warrants for unpaid tickets. It looks like Bree has deactivated her TikTok. I know a lot of people have been curious over how she's doing, and yeah, I don't know. I do know that Sheena had posted some paper from Bree, which stated that she just had a $50 seatbelt thing. And I've actually had a lot of people that don't like Bree that have messaged me and have even said like, hey, I've thought about reaching out to her, but her TikTok is deactivated, it looks like. I even had somebody say to me in a private message that, yeah, you know, I was going to reach out to her, but then I remembered how much of an asshole she is. Okay, and that's fair. That is fair. But Gypsy, why aren't you coming to the internet defending your friend? She did for you. Every time something came out or information came out or the FOIA videos came out, my FOIA requests, you know, and Gypsy would go off of social media and go run and hide. She's coming on a TikTok live to tell another friend, thank you for being a good friend to my friend who I should be a better friend to, instead of just being a really good friend to that really good friend. But watch how quickly Gypsy takes this in a different direction.
I think that she has a community of people that stand up for her. Mm-hmm. And I understand that she's taking this time for herself right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that should be respected.
Yes.
And in her absence, I think because she is not here to defend herself, I think that just let it be. Like, people just need to let it be. Leave her alone. She's got things that she's dealing with. And
first of all, nobody for the last year and a half made Bree come to the internet and put herself in this situation. Instead of taking $2,800 from somebody's hard-earned savings for their burial fund, especially when they have allegedly stage 4 liver disease, why didn't she just sit in there for a couple days, get out, and use that money to pay other things off or deal with the other issues? To me, that would have been more logical as a friend to help her try to fix and solve some of these issues she might have around money or tickets or whatever it may be. But that's neither here nor there. Nobody is out here disrespecting Bree. Her negative relationship and back and forth with certain creators, there was no doubt people were going to get a hold of it quickly. But also, that is the symptom, the effect, and the result of being friends with you, Gypsy, that somebody was more concerned with obsessing with the internet, with YouTube, with TikTok, with Facebook, with Instagram, and coming on to a TikTok live constantly for hours to defend you instead of focusing on their real life first and foremost. And for a woman who is married and does have a family, you know, nobody wishes issues, legal issues, or, you know, an arrest on anybody, even if it's for petty little shit. But also the fact that she let all of that go for the last year and a half and her friends aren't helping her or encouraging her to really handle that shit before it metastasized into this big thing that ended up with 2 arrests in not even 2 months. Bree is the one who put herself on the internet. So yeah, people on both sides, no matter what, are going to be like, hey, where's she at? How is she doing? Remember, she got arrested back after Christmas and then came to the internet with a big FU emoji telling everybody lies. Then she came to an account with over 9 million followers and said more lies. Can you understand people's interest in wanting to know where she's at, how she's doing, what's really going on, an explanation? Yeah, maybe they're not entitled to it, but the thing is she's the one who put it all out there. Her first thought after getting out, being bailed out, for nearly $3,000 of somebody's hard-earned and hard-saved money was, hey, I'm going to go to TikTok and flip you all off and call you all fucking assholes and nosy bitches and degrade you because she herself was the one caught with methamphetamine in her own purse. And hey, you can go back and look at my videos, even lightly talking about it and covering what Bree herself has said. I have been the most sympathetic to her, despite her deflection, her negating, her trying to twist her issues and put it on people on the internet. I was the most kind and the most understanding, despite and regardless if people believed that she earned it or was not deserving of it. I said the same thing. Hey, maybe she'll come to a point where she makes the grown-up choice to get off the internet and go get help or to handle the things that are going on in her private life. And if she's choosing to do that now, then good. But this person also, like I said, this is the symptom, this is the effect, this is the result of being friends with Gypsy Rose Blanchard for a year and a half, coming to the internet, defending her, forgoing your own life and your own marriage and your own friendships and relationships, all in exchange for the mommy murderer who has some kind of notoriety and clout online. That to me speaks volumes. And if you're intelligent, if you have street smarts, book smarts, common sense in any kind of way, shape, or form, you see exactly what I see. And clearly, she didn't take the other incident as a learning lesson. It's really a symptom, an effect, and a result of a spiral. And whether I like you, hate you, loathe you, am indifferent to you, I really do pray for people, with their mental health, with their addiction issues, with legal issues, all of it. I really do. I really do pray that this is her making that choice for herself. But that's on her. And deactivating a TikTok like Gypsy doesn't mean that she's still not online all the damn time. It doesn't mean that there's any real work or healing going on behind the scenes. And also, I've come to a point where I'm not even going to spend the time praying about it anymore. It is what it is. But Gypsy's the one who's coming to the internet and trying to bring all of this attention to it. And she knows what she's doing. She wants to make it look like she's being sympathetic and defending her friend. But a sociopath, you know how they operate.
I understand that, I have not really been vocal, while all this has been going on. But as you know, I've been behind the scenes supporting her and being a friend to her.
Clearly not a good, positive, or proactive one, or this incident wouldn't have happened. In my own mind, neither of them would have happened. Instead of bailing her out and excusing, enabling, encouraging, and nurturing the addiction itself or the negative bad behavior, you guys could have encouraged her in a positive and proactive way to start paying off some of those tickets and actually not ignoring her problems. It just makes no sense to pay $2,800 to enable somebody to continue their bad behavior when that $2,800 could have went to her avoiding further issues legally. But like I said, nobody should have to forego their life and their struggles, even privately with their friends, because it's all about Gypsy all the time. The sociopathy is the only thing that makes this interesting at all, because who in the fuck is Gypsy Rose Blanchard? She's a sociopath who lies, gaslights, darvos, manipulates, who killed her mother and still continues the same exact negative bad behavior. And because everybody has to give attention and focus on Gypsy all the time, she doesn't really give a fuck about anybody else. I think that's the part that has been interesting to watch play out, because people not only were right the whole time, it just confirmed what we've known.
I've learned from past experiences that you don't always have to shout from the rooftops. Yes, this is my friend and blah, blah, blah.
My friend, blah, blah, blah. That's what you really mean to Gypsy Rose, Bree. Blah, blah, blah. But Gypsy tells on herself because sociopaths always do. She's not joining this TikTok live to defend her friend, Bree, in any way, shape, or form.
I am her friend. I love my friend. We all love our friend.
She does have a name, a name.
And I'm proud of you for, taking up for her. I think you rocked it. I really, really do think you rocked it.
The manipulation. Hi, Sheena. I just wanted to come out here to tell you thank you so much for being such a great friend and defending Bree, because I've been doing all the real hard work behind the scenes for blah, blah, blah. I don't have to shout it from the rooftops. You know what I've really done for her. But I just wanted to come on here to make it look like I'm praising you. Thank you so much, Sheena, for being such a good friend to blah, 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 because I wasn't being a really good friend to blah, blah, blah. And instead of wasting my time pretending to be a good friend and trying to manipulate people into believing that I was a good friend to blah, 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 I'm just going to come on here and pretend to be a good friend to blah, blah, blah. While I'm wasting my time, I could actually be a good friend to blah, blah, blah. And I don't need to shout it from the rooftops, but I am here to shout this from the rooftops. Rooftops being TikTok Live.
Thank you.
And as for the video that you've shown,
she's not even good at hiding it. The mask slips. Here's the real reason why she joined.
It's so sad that I love my daughter so much.
That's weird because mothers who love their children don't have to constantly tell themselves or people on a panel on TikTok Live. If you want me to believe that you love your daughter, prove it. Prove it to her. Get off the fucking internet. Think about her digital future. Think about her digital footprint. Think about what kids and teenagers and her friends and her first boyfriend are going to say when they easily look all of this up. Tell me that you want to be perceived as a good mother without telling me that you want to be perceived as a good mother. Tell me that you love your baby without telling me you love your baby. Prove it. Actions speak louder than words. But no, her focus is always the public and society. People that are on the panel and in the chat of TikTok Live or Instagram or YouTube or Facebook. I just don't understand how anybody can be this dumb or blind to not see it.
And it's so disgusting to see how people twist some of the most innocent things that I do. And to compare, a picture of me when I was 22 to a printout cartoon.
I wonder if Gypsy's ever been in speech therapy for a speech impediment or a stutter or a stammer, because the way that she speaks, very spaced out, and the way that she says a lot of vocal disfluencies, and you guys, right, and like, you guys, totally, right, yeah, and I'm just curious as to why she speaks this way. Why does she speak like almost like she's superior or something? Like she's vocally trying to mimic something here, and I can't quite make out what it is. The only thing that I can compare it to is what people are taught when they have a stutter or a stammer and they've been in speech therapy, because they take a lot of pauses and breaks like that. It's a technique that I know for a fact has been used in speech therapy.
Of my daughter on her wagon for us taking her to her first Mardi Gras celebration is disgusting and stupid.
So stupid that that's the whole reason why she came on the TikTok Live. So stupid that it's more important than her friend, blah, 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 being addicted to methamphetamine and having a lot of legal issues. It's so disgusting and stupid that it's the focal point of what she's talking about consciously and subconsciously. If people are stupid and they're ignorant and they are crazy with conspiracy theories and lies, why do you care? If somebody is really disgusting or stupid, there's not going to be anybody there watching, so don't worry about it. People are intelligent. They know when somebody is lying to them or somebody is stupid or disgusting. They're not going to follow, subscribe, watch, listen, join, none of that. They're going to see that for themselves. So why is it even a focal point? One video got under her skin that much?
Yeah.
Because I don't understand if people think that I am going to sort of take away Aurora's childhood just because, yes, I experienced a forced childhood.
Dictionary, childhood, quote, the state of being a child, unquote, or, quote, the years you are a child, unquote. Nobody forced you to have a childhood. Everybody that grows up over the age of 18 has a childhood. Sorry that your mom kept you alive for 24 years and kept you alive through your childhood. That's not a forced childhood, though. You can't force a childhood. It just naturally happens. It's called aging. It's called youth. It's called growing up.
On me, with Disney princesses and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do they think that I'm honestly going to tell Aurora when she's 5 years old or whatever, no, honey, you can't like Disney princesses because mommy had been through some traumatic shit?
No, she's going to go through traumatic shit because her mommy is causing traumatic shit and chaos in her world. And she's only been alive, a little over 365 days? You're more concerned with a TikTok video and a TikTok live than you are your own so-called best friend or your child. She's going to grow up and she's going to rebel completely against Gypsy. Watch. You're already forcing her childhood to be one way. Online, on social media, in the spotlight, without her permission or her consent, because you consciously and subconsciously keep calling her my child, my baby. She's not a possession, Gypsy. She was always determined to be and grow up to be who she is going to always grow up to be. The same way that you grew up to be a murderer and you took your mother's life, despite and regardless of her teaching you that you can always get what you want. The most traumatizing thing that baby Aurora is ever going to have to face is the fact that her mother is a sociopath and does not get any kind of real intensive psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. And don't even go there with that Disney shit, because it wasn't even 7 months ago. You were dressing up as Rapunzel after her hair is cut. You were literally recording videos on your cell phone to post on your TikTok and Instagram of you singing Disney songs to her. The only person that's coming to the internet talking about the family vacation to Disney and getting the Disney bands, all because you want a full circle photo op moment at Disney World, is you. And you're the only one that's cosplaying all the time. She's literally one. She doesn't even have the autonomy to be able to say she even wants to go to Disney World. But this is what she felt was an important enough issue to come to the internet and talk about, instead of ways to actually help her friend, blah, blah, blah.
No, I'm not going to take a childhood away from her. No, honey, you can't watch Disney movies because of what grandma did to me. Like, are we so fucking for real right now?
Just wait until she finds out what mommy did to grandma. Are you so fucking for real right now? Because one day she's going to look up those crime scene photos, or some kid in middle school is going to send them to her. And no matter who or what tries to sit her down and explain things to her, that's something you brought into her life. That's something you invited, trying to make yourself a celebrity and make yourself rich. And you're going to tell everybody else, are you so fucking for real right now? If you're really a good mom, you don't need to come to the internet to fight 8 billion people who think you're not a good mom. Because the truth is, if you were a good mom, and that was objectively the truth, what other people think or say would not matter. The fact that you come to the internet and it matters so much to you, above your daughter's own physical safety, or her digital footprint, or her digital future, or your friend blah, blah, blah. That is your sociopathy.
Yeah. Yeah, because you care more about her than anything else.
Exactly. I'm letting my fucking one-year-old, okay, have a childhood.
Gypsy is a demonic fucking sociopath. The fact that she's saying, I'm letting. Excuse me, what? You're letting your fucking one-year-old have a childhood? Even if CPS came and took her and she went into foster care, or your dad took over custody of her and you were never able to see her again because you have your rights taken from you, that baby is going to have a childhood. She's always going to have a childhood unless you kill her, or God forbid something tragic happens and she passes away in childhood and she's never able to fully have a childhood. What do you mean? What in the actual fuck do you mean? I'm letting. Like, Aurora Raina Urker needs your permission to grow up. My daughter. Me. Mine. You sound like the fucking seagulls from Finding Nemo. Disney, again. Mine, 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 mine. Sound like fucking Hitler. Mine baby, my child, my daughter, my fucking 1-year-old. Like, I'm going to let her have a childhood. Gypsy, she's going to have a childhood despite and regardless of you being a good mom or a bad mom, because she's going to grow up. Whether her childhood ends up being good or bad in her own eyes once she's an adult is neither here nor there, but she's going to have a childhood. And she doesn't need your permission to do it. She doesn't need your permission to grow. If nothing else has ever been taken by you as a sign that you are a sociopath and a psychopath, then this should be it. The first thing you should do is go be honest with a really good psychiatrist. Get a very thorough psychological evaluation done and start very intensive psychotherapy and cognitive behavioral therapy. Otherwise, there is no hope, not only for your future, but for your baby's future. I cannot believe how ballsy she is to actually come to the internet and just display her sociopathy for everybody so openly too.
Yeah.
Okay. It's mind baffling to me. So I just had to speak on that.
Yeah, she spent more time speaking on a little video that should have meant nothing to her, that she should have never been searching for or looking for or sent to see in the first place, than she did even trying to discuss or talk about her friend blah, blah, blah. And her friend Sheena says something that to me is very, very telling. And they're missing the whole point and the whole principle.
Well, we know how supportive and how loving you are behind the scenes, and people are like, well, why ain't Gypsy out here? You don't have to.
I don't have
That's
to.
not what it's not about parading it where everybody can see. We know what goes on behind the scenes, and that's what real friends do.
You know, Al-Anon is real, right? Sometimes there is no helping somebody, especially if they're in the midst of an addiction, of active addiction at that. Do whatever you do behind the scenes, but the fact that your friend has all these legal issues and has been arrested twice in not even 2 months kind of is a sign and a symptom that you guys aren't doing enough or doing a good enough job being a friend. In fact, you think that giving somebody $2,800 from your burial fund, and who the hell even accepts that from a friend who has stage 4 liver disease nonetheless? Like, she couldn't love you and care about you enough to sit there for a couple days and save you $2,800. No, see, that's encouraging and enabling the negative bad behavior, not promoting healthy change, getting help, rehab facility, or helping to address the root cause of the second arrest. So people are free to sit there on a panel and say whatever bullshit that they want. But the fact is that actions always speak louder than words. And if they really cared about their friend, then those two things wouldn't have happened in the last 2 months, right? And $2,800 certainly could have been spent in a better way, like helping her to pay off some of those 6 tickets or warrants that she had, helping her behind the scenes to go to a rehab, to get into therapy, to go to detox, to appear at court and go pay all of those things off. $2,800 could have spent better doing that. This is just another way to gaslight and manipulate people that they are holier than thou, that they are superior, that they're better friends, and they're on the right side, that they're on the correct side. No, you're not. And that right there proves it.
What real friends do counts when nobody's looking.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, but your friend's driving around town in a car with a license plate and a busted taillight, no insurance, tweaked out on meth, screaming, "I'm a big Gypsy Rose advocate." Like, girl, you do know that less than 0.0001% of America's 340 million citizens even know who the fuck she is, right? Most of those followers and those bots are not even American, and there's 195 countries on planet Earth, 8 billion people. Nothing screams, "Oops, I did it again," like being pulled over by the police and having the nerve to tell them, "I support a convicted murderer." That's how delusional your friendship is to your friend blah, blah, blah. Okay? So let's start there. Secondly, I'm not even going to get into the others because the T-Page with T and Audrey have already accomplished that. Just like the first time, I don't need to get into that. But it's crazy that people that absolutely dislike and do not support and even hate Gypsy Rose Blanchard have even reached out to me telling me that they know of rehab facilities that Bree could go to, or trying to offer some kind of supports and resources for therapy or for detox or for other rehab facilities, or even asking like, hey, do you know how Bree is doing? I don't talk to Bree, and I'm not her friend, and I don't follow her on social media. She has me blocked anyway. But the fact is wow, her own friends don't even care to do that. But what they are going to do is come on a TikTok live at their big old ages and try to convince everybody else that they're really good people and really good friends. I'd say Bree's life begs to differ on that one. As much sympathy, empathy, compassion, grace, and prayers as I've spent on Bree, yeah, and yet none of that excuses the asshole shit she has done, even her back and forth with other people and everything. But just wow, trying to convince yourselves more than anybody else that you're really good friends to have, really great, amazing people to have in your sphere and have in your world and in your life. Meanwhile, they're on the internet talking about it while their friend is off hiding because she knows that everybody has already caught wind over what happened the second time. And the first two, but even she's not dumb enough to come to the internet and say, fuck you, it's your fault again. Although I don't doubt that she's on a burner account because she's gone through 13 TikTok accounts in not even a year and a half.
And I just think we've gotten to a level here that's something I never expected, but I can go there. We want to, I can go there. That's okay. A lot of other people can too. I still would have a problem with fucking with somebody's kids. I just would.
Yet she just posted Michelle's grandbaby. You do know that grandchildren are somebody's kids, right? Despite and regardless of what any video anybody made about Gypsy and or her baby, who she puts all over social media, this whole entire segment is just dedicated to Gypsy joining because she wants to address it. Don't you love how sociopaths always have an objective in mind, and they, no matter what, will get to their objective. And they always are able to steer the conversation back onto them. My baby, I'm letting her. My daughter, my fucking 1-year-old, I'm going to let her. If gaslighting and manipulation and control freak has words, those are all the ones you just heard right out of Gypsy Rose's mouth.
It's just not something for me. But all this other shit, just let me know if the rules have changed, you know?
I understand that you feel that way. I don't feel that way. I don't feel like an eye for an eye. For some things, it's, I guess, fair. But for kids to be brought into it, I don't agree with that. I don't like it whenever my kid is brought into it.
Again, watch the language. My kid, an eye for an eye, brought into it. Brought into what? The chaos and the destruction? The drama that you cause, and then you react to people's reaction and response to it. You killed your fucking mother. You killed your fucking mother. And a young autistic man is serving his natural life in prison for helping you to commit your first-degree premeditated murder. He is going to die in prison. His mother is no longer here and died nearly on the exact date of the 6-year anniversary of your crime. Nothing positive is ever going to come from you, from your actions, words, choices, and behaviors, from your life, because you're repeating the same negative, toxic cycle, and you're sucking people into an equally or worse negative, toxic cycle of drama, lies, chaos, sociopathy, instead of changing your behavior and your impulsive and erratic behavior and reaction to what anybody else ever says or does. You create it and you feed it because you need that validation, because you don't get it in a positive, good way. But it's the only way that you get it, right? The attention, the praise, the validation that you seek, that you yearn for, and it's never enough. Never enough. That's how you know you're a sociopath, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, is because nothing is ever good enough. Nothing. Ever. It's never enough. You're an insatiable beast that constantly needs negative, chaos, destruction, toxicity to be able to thrive and feel like you can go on with your day. And you use social media and the internet for nothing more than a tool. to get that validation. And you are mad because people see it and they know it and they recognize it, that they talk about it, they call it out. How about doing something selfless, getting off the internet and actually caring about your daughter and proving that you do, or caring about your friend? Go help her get into detox or rehab and go help her with her private legal issues and help her clear those up and do something positive and proactive with her life, with your life, with your motherhood. Or is nobody going to let you? Because, all this rehabilitation really should have took place in the 8.5 years that you were in prison. You spent nearly a decade in prison. You could have worked on yourself. You could have healed. You could have grown. You could have done all that shit that you're trying to convince the public that you're doing now. You could have done that in prison. You should have done that in prison. What are you going to do? Waste another 8.5 years on TikTok Live trying to combat what people think or feel or say, or what their opinions are based on your bullshit, your chaos, your drama, your destruction, your jealousy, lies, inconsistencies, your revenge, your rage? Nothing is an eye for an eye with Gypsy, but see, her actions and behavior speaks otherwise. I think that's the biggest problem that everybody has had, is that her actions, words, choices, and behaviors don't ever match up. Ever. And so many people were rooting for her and were supporting her until they started to see because of her. I mean, by now, Gypsy could have already spent all that money that she made. She got out of prison and had over $500,000 in a trust fund. She could have went back to college. She could have already gotten a certification in something like doing hair or nails, or she could have went to a trade school, or she could have helped her friend get into a rehab and detox facility and get into treatment. She could have done so much with her time in the last 2 years. That's an average of 750 days. She could be working a full-time job right now, doing something that she really loves. Instead, she's on somebody else's TikTok Live trying to gaslight and manipulate people into believing she's a good friend, a good mom, and a good person. And not only that, she takes it a step further to say that people that make videos are not. Where's episode 1 of the podcast, Gypsy? Why don't you work on that instead? Or are you going to go on a podcast trying to convince non-experts whose sister was cleared of Munchausen by proxy or any kind of related child abuse into hosting you because you want to be a voice for other survivors, yet you don't even mention not a single survivor? Oh yeah, I'm going to tell you something, Gypsy. Adaptive Kate. Why didn't you mention or bring up that one to Andrea Dunlop? I have a few others too that you completely forgot to mention who really are victims and survivors of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. During part 1 and part 2, you didn't even mention not a single other voice, survivor, victim, or case. The only voice you want to elevate is your own, because you are a sociopath. You are a malignant narcissist. So much so that you cannot even fake or even try to fake real emotion or real intellect because it's just not there.
It's like they don't have consent to this TikTok bullshit drama. All right. They're, innocent bystanders in all of this. And they're the weakest, they're our weak link. They're our weak spot. Mm-hmm. So it's easy for people to go after kids. To me, I feel like that's a pussy shot.
Yes.
Nothing screams pussy like trying to kill your mom for 4.5 years and then having to spend 2 years and 8 months convincing a man with autism to doing it for you. Nothing screams pussy like not having the balls to get on mainstream media and actually tell the fucking truth. Nothing screams pussy like, give me all your money, but I'm going to slap you in the face with my lies and manipulation. Nothing screams pussy like, I'm going to advocate, but then I'm not because the internet bullied me. Nothing screams pussy like perjuring yourself and lying under the oaths of God and man at a trial where you planned to kill your mom, neglecting to tell them how you tried to kill your mom twice before you ever even met Nick. How you lied to Nick and told him that you got the idea from another man. Let me guess, Dan Glidewell. And that's probably not even true, but that's what you told Nick. I'm going to tell you a secret right now. Normal people don't triangulate people, nor do they lie. Only narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths engage in that kind of behavior. But nothing screams pussy like not being able to come on the internet and actually tell the objective truth that you killed your mom for dick. And there's nothing more pussy than that. And certainly nothing screams pussy like hiding in the bathroom while you convince your boyfriend into being your accessory, because you don't even have the balls to face your own murder victim while she's dying with your knife that you stole, and you showed him exactly where to do it. Yeah, pussy shot for sure.
I think it's going to be very revealing because she's so open and she's honest.
Oh, it was certainly revealing. Oh, Melissa, where are you, by the way? How do you feel now that the truth has come out and you failed to objectively look into anything? As long as you got paid money and Mike Stanfield got paid money and Michelle got paid money, as long as Lifetime and the A&E network made money, right? Now that the truth has been completely exposed, you go and hide. That seems to be their modus operandi. Every time the truth comes out, they just go deactivate and hide. What is with that? You're not talking about a secret addiction, which fails to be a secret when you're in a motor vehicle in a public space. You're not talking about the actions, words, choices, and behaviors of another human, of which you have zero control over. You're not talking about petty legal issues like 6 warrants for unpaid tickets and failure to appear, 2 counts of shoplifting with 2 prior counts of shoplifting, altering and fabricating price tags, fraud and fabricating. You're talking about a girl who murdered her mom and then lied to everybody about everything, including why. Nobody, I repeat, nobody wanted or asked for the story of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, her crime, her life, her narrative. Nobody. Nobody wanted it shoved down their throat or in their face on their TV screens or on their favorite social media apps. But now that the truth is exposed, where are you, Melissa?
Every time, I mean, there's a moment, well, I guess I can't share everything, but one thing that she did tell me is that there's a moment that she chose to share.
I really do wonder how does she feel now that everybody did the work that she should have done as a producer before spending all of 2022 and 2023 filming and then following Gypsy all of 2024? Right, because it doesn't matter as long as Hollywood is pushing this fake story and narrative. That's what Hollywood has been built on. Duh, lies and corruptions and made up stories, stolen stories, trying to make yourself a millionaire. You don't see Melissa's brother or her sister or her mother coming forward making millions of dollars off of her father's murders. Of all the shit that Melissa G. Moore has been a part of since 2009, one thing she's never done was actually sit down with the surviving victims or the victim's family of the 8 known victims of her father. So again, proving that these people don't give a fuck about real abuse victims, survivors, murder victims, or trauma survivors. Just corruption and lies to make themselves money. That's it.
Which is when she removes her dentures. And she shows the aftermath of all of these surgeries that her mother inflicted on her.
I wonder if it hurts. Does it mentally, emotionally, and physically hurt you to be that incorrect and that wrong? Or do you really just believe whatever bullshit you're sold by a sociopath? And objectively, that's the worst person to go to, since you never went to any of the surviving victims of your father nor their families. Many of the women that Keith Jesperson murdered were also mothers. None of their children, their spouses, parents, siblings, family, nothing. But you're out here trying to convince people that you know the facts and the truth. And it was surgery and medicine that took Gypsy's teeth. You're not only completely absent and void of having the truth, you're actually speaking lies, things that are not factual. That's what happens when you curate a relationship with a sociopath, Melissa. That's the effect that they have on you. Sociopaths and murderers come in all different shapes and sizes, ages and genders. And I think Gypsy Rose Blanchard's 15 minutes has long been expired. Is that why you fell back, Melissa? and went quiet on the Gypsy Rose Blanchard mainstream media agenda that you helped streamline and curate, how would you feel if we decided to give your dad a mainstream media platform just because he's a white male? Why not? You did it to Gypsy and she's just a murderous white female, right? Reverse it and flip it for just a second, and then maybe you'll understand why the society and the public backlash and outrage is what it is.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard, you were amazing when you played her. Have you two connected?
We did get the chance to privately speak, which was wonderful, and I'm just so happy that she's now living a free life. She really deserves it.
On June 10th of 2015, between 2:20 and 2:30 a.m., Dee Dee Blanchard was murdered. She was murdered while she was sleeping in her own bed in her own home. She suffered 17 stab wounds and was nearly decapitated. 5 days later, on June 15th of 2015, her daughter, Gypsy Rose Elcida Blanchard, and her internet boyfriend, Nicholas Paul Godejohn, were apprehended at his mother and stepfather's house in Wisconsin. Monday, July 11th, 2016, Gypsy Rose Blanchard accepts and enters a plea deal, admitting and accepting her guilt. But the plea deal was for a lesser offense than what she committed, second degree, and she got a 10-year sentence with that plea deal, having to serve 85% before eligible for parole. On March 11th, 2017, Mommy Dead and Dearest premiered at the South by Southwest Film Festival. This would be the first of many documentaries that Gypsy Rose Blanchard and her family would participate in, consenting, agreeing, and signing contracts for. This documentary was produced by HBO, and there was actually 2 different premieres, one in New York and the one that Christy, Rod, and Mia Blanchard attend at the South by Southwest Film Festival. The documentary, Mommy, Dead, and Dearest, was produced by HBO. The director is a female named Erin Lee Carr, and this came out on May 16th of 2017. On November 21st of 2017, Gypsy Rose Blanchard sat down to do a prison interview with Dr. Phil. On November 22nd, 2017, the very next day, part 2 of her interview with Dr. Phil aired. On January 4th, 2018, Rod and Christy Blanchard not only do an article, but there was a sit-down, which the article was based off of, with ABC News' Amy Robach, speaking about Gypsy, her case, and her alleged abuse, citing it as a reason why Gypsy would want her mother dead. The very next day, January 5th, 2018, Nicholas Godejohn does one of the only prison interviews that he's ever participated in. And this was done by Sophie Cunningham and her affiliate. This interview has made the rounds on social media and YouTube for years. This is where Nick admits that Gypsy is the one who planned on killing her mom, and that she had tried to kill her mom twice all by herself, a year and a half before ever meeting him in October of 2012. He also admits in this interview that it was Gypsy who told him she got the idea from a previous boyfriend or, quote, man, unquote. That doesn't make it true. It just means that Gypsy, instead of owning accountability for planning the murder of her mom, she was making Nick believe that she got the idea from somebody else. On February 27th of 2018, Rod and Christy Blanchard are in an article in the Springfield News Leader. This is where they talk extensively about cooperating for a scripted TV series called By Proxy. And if you don't know, this is Fancy Maselli from the Good Wives Network. This was to be her series. November 6th of 2018. A documentary entitled Gypsy's Revenge by Investigation Discovery aired. Not even a week later, on November 13th of 2018, Nicholas Godejohn's trial begins. And now we come to the one and only dramatized series, entitled The Act, where Patricia Arquette and Joey King play the mother-daughter duo. This was produced by Hulu, the streaming giant, and this premiered on March 20th of 2019. In June of 2025, Gypsy Rose lies to Tori Spelling on the Tori Spelling podcast Misspelling, stating that Hulu stole her story, that they made a success out of it. She did not get paid. She did not get paid life rights, and nobody from the production, the cast, had ever reached out to her. In January of 2026, Gypsy does the podcast Nobody Should Believe Me with Andrea Dunlop, where she is forced to admit that that is a lie and defamation. A YouTuber named 1980s Millennial Commentates has Gypsy Rose Blanchard's prison emails, where she finds one that is from the producer of the act. Not only did Gypsy Rose Blanchard get paid $50,000, they broke it up into two different payments, $30,000 and $20,000. She also had contact not just with this producer, but also with Joey King herself. When preparing for her role as Gypsy Rose Blanchard, Joey King had private conversations with Gypsy Rose, and she admits this when being asked this specific question on the red carpet. However, it's very unlikely that Hulu or producers are going to sue Gypsy Rose Blanchard for defamation regarding what she said on Tori Spelling's podcast. Nonetheless, this is the act. This is a huge reason why people around the world even know of the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case, because of this dramatized series. The second interview that Nicholas Godejohn ever does is a sit-down with the Oxygen Network, and this aired July 11th, 2019. He speaks extensively about why he does the sit-down, and also his biological father does a sit down. Nearly 2 weeks later, on July 22nd of 2019, the Oxygen Network does their episode about the crime, and it is entitled Killer Couples, regarding Gypsy and Nick. On January 21st of 2021, the Killer Cases series does an episode entitled Killin' Mama. Now, if you thought that was a lot, we're just getting started. On April 29th of 2022, True Crime Central does a documentary about the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case, and it's called Would You Kill My Mother for Me? Fancy Maselli, who was working with the Blanchards and was a family friend and spokesperson, partakes in this. On May 2nd of 2022, HBO does an episode on their podcast, HBO Docs Podcast, or HBO Docs Club. Season 1, Episode 4 is about Mommy, Dead, and Dearest. Now, it's really important to note that Lifetime, which is owned by the A&E network, is already working on the prison confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Filming has already began for the 6-part docu-series. It's also really important to note that in July of 2022, Gypsy Rose Blanchard marries Ryan Anderson, which their marriage officially happens July 21st of 2022. Now, some time does elapse, but they are filming the prison confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. She is working with Melissa G. Moore and her literary agent on her upcoming ebook, and Gypsy Rose Blanchard is granted parole after serving 8.5 years. On December 22nd of 2023, Law and Crime does a documentary called The Twisted Case of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, and Fancy Maselli is also in this documentary. Of course, she had long broken ties with Gypsy Rose and the Blanchard family. The very next day, on December 28th of 2023, Gypsy Rose Elcida Blanchard is released from prison after serving 8.5 years, where she will have to serve another 1.5 years on parole, equaling her 10-year plea deal. Now, this day is really important because this is a week after her release. On January 5th of 2024, Lifetime, which is owned by the A&E network, releases a 6-part docu-series called The Prison Confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. On the same day, January 5th of 2024, Christy Blanchard sits down and does an interview with News Nation. Gypsy Rose and her husband, Ryan Anderson, are also in New York City. Because of the release date, Lifetime and the A&E Network in New York City have the Prison Confessions premiere, where Gypsy Rose and ex-husband Ryan Anderson are on the red carpet. Also, on January 5th of 2024, Gypsy Rose does a sit-down interview with Good Morning America. Now, during this interview, Good Morning America got a lot of footage because they run another interview from this exact day, subsequently 2 more times. And you're also going to notice that on January 5th of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard does a lot of press, but she changes clothes. And just because something is recorded on one day doesn't mean it's the day that it airs. On January 5th of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard and then husband Ryan Anderson do a sit-down interview with ABC News. Also, on January 5th of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard does a sit-down interview with Access Hollywood. Also, same day, January 5th, 2024, Gypsy does a sit-down interview with The View. However, she did change her clothes. Gypsy Rose also, on January 5th of 2024, does a sit-down interview with E! News. But the same day, she also does an interview with a podcast called The Vile Files with Nick Vile, but this airs on January 8th of 2024. The very next day, January 9th of 2024, Ben Bella Books releases Gypsy's ebook called Released: Conversations on the Eve of Freedom. On January 12th of 2024, Lifetime did a promo with Melissa G. Moore, Gypsy, and Ryan. On January 15th of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard makes the cover of People magazine. January 26th of 2024, ABC 2020 runs an episode called The Next Act. This is about Gypsy Rose Blanchard, but they also update this episode and run it on ABC's 2020, not once, but 2 more times. The second and third times being the early spring and the early fall of 2024. In October of 2023, before being released, Gypsy Rose Blanchard was emailing with TMZ employees directly, where she tells TMZ to not say that they talked to her directly because she's under an NDA and contract with Lifetime and the A&E Network. This legal liability is one reason why mainstream media doesn't want to work with Gypsy Rose anymore, other than just the backlash that they receive from the public. However, Gypsy Rose Blanchard travels to Los Angeles, where she calls TMZ and arranges to sell stories, videos, and photographs to them. On May 4th of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard and her stepmother, Christy Blanchard, are recorded and photographed at the airport by TMZ, which of course they run stories on. But during this trip, Gypsy Rose Blanchard also does the TMZ tour with Christy Blanchard. But her relationship with TMZ is far from over, even though today in 2026, they've really distanced themselves from covering Gypsy Rose. Now, 2 days before the TMZ airport incident, the reason why Gypsy Rose is going to Los Angeles is because she's doing a red carpet event promoting her upcoming reality series with the same network, Lifetime, owned by the A&E Network, called Gypsy Rose Blanchard, Life After Lockup. This would be in regards to season 1. However, during that same event, Gypsy Rose Blanchard is interviewed by Entertainment Tonight. On May 3rd, Gypsy Rose Blanchard also does an interview and is on The View once again. However, because she was not in studio, she does it via video. On May 30th of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard does a sit-down interview with ABC News. This is where she's cited saying that she feels like everybody wants a perfect victim. Also on May 30th of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard does a sit-down interview with People magazine. She also does little skits with her stepmother for their socials. These were likely all filmed in the beginning of May when Gypsy Rose and her stepmother Christy Blanchard were in Los Angeles. However, this airs later. Same day, May 30th of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard does a video interview, sit down, with Access Hollywood. On May 30th of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard does a video sit down interview with Extra. But this isn't the only one, because on May 30th, 2024, they also run another interview exclusive with Gypsy Rose. The very next day, on May 31st of 2024, Gypsy Rose gives an interview to Entertainment Tonight, again via video. On April 19th of 2024, Lifetime producer Melissa G. Moore did an interview for the Prison Confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, still marketing and advertising the show. On June 1st of 2024, Gypsy Rose does a video interview with Extra TV. But you're going to notice she's wearing the same thing she did multiple other video interviews. It was likely filmed the same day. They just aired it later. On June 3rd of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard's reality show with Lifetime and the A&E network called Gypsy Rose: Life After Lockup, Season 1 premieres. 2 days later, on June 5th of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard and Ryan Anderson do a sit-down interview with Chris Jericho on his platform, which is largely YouTube. However, Gypsy Rose Blanchard and Ryan Anderson have already split months prior, and she's already back with an ex-prison fiance named Ken Urker, and is already pregnant. Same day, June 5th of 2024, Ryan Anderson does a sit-down interview with Extra. It's a very somber interview because he was by himself and he was speaking about Gypsy Rose Blanchard leaving him and filing for divorce. In July of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard does an appearance on the Hulu show The Kardashians, Season 5, Episode 8. Gypsy Rose talks to Kim Kardashian about prison reform and being an advocate. On July 6th of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard does a sit-down video interview with Us. But you will notice that this was likely taken earlier. On July 12th of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard does a sit-down interview with E! News, where she promises to never put her baby in front of a camera, except for private home movies, stating that the world is dangerous and unsafe, and she does not want her baby in the media. On October 10th of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard did a speaking engagement for San Francisco State University, talking about prison reform. In this speaking engagement, she mentions the Menendez brothers. The very next day, on October 11th of 2024, because Gypsy Rose and Ken Urker are in Los Angeles, Gypsy Rose does a sit-down interview in studio with Fox 11 Los Angeles, where she says that taking medication the week of her crime had no effect on her mental state, which was a claim that she had previously made in Mommy Dead and Dearest. 3 days later, on October 14th of 2024, TMZ are called to the airport and speak to Gypsy Rose Blanchard and her baby daddy, Ken Urker, where they ask her questions about the Menendez brothers, and she refuses to answer anything, stating that she doesn't know much about their case. However, while she was doing her speaking engagement, she brings them up. 2 days later, on October 16th of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard reaches out to the Vile Files, Nick Vile, to do his podcast once again, but this time she doesn't have her husband, Ryan Anderson. She has her baby daddy, Ken Urker. This was filmed in Los Angeles before flying back home to Louisiana. A month later, on November 16th of 2024, Gypsy Rose and Ken have their baby shower for their baby girl. Gypsy's younger half-sister, Mia Blanchard, is the organizer of the baby shower, and it was filmed for her show. On December 9th of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard does a video interview with Live Signing. And when you go and look at the chat replay, there was only 2 comments. The reason was because Gypsy Rose was promoting her book. On December 10th of 2024, Ben Bella Books releases this book written by Melissa G. Moore and her literary agent. It is a memoir about Gypsy Rose Blanchard's life called My Time to Stand. On December 10th of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, very pregnant, does a sit-down interview with WWL TV. This is to promote her memoir, My Time to Stand. On December 11th through December 16th, 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard does a podcast called Barely Famous Podcast, and the host is Kale Lowry, who was a teen mom. Kale Lowry released this for sale on her Patreon. However, she was having technical difficulties. Those were resolved in full by December 16th of 2024, of which her entire interview was finally uploaded in full. On December 12th of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard does a video interview with Extra, talking about her life, talking about her pregnancy, and promoting her memoir. On December 13th of 2024, Gypsy Rose Blanchard does a book signing event, a meet and greet, at the Garden District Bookshop in New Orleans, Louisiana. This event stirred a lot of backlash for Gypsy Rose Blanchard, and a vigil for her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard, took place outside the event. On December 28th of 2024, the 1-year anniversary of her release from prison, Gypsy Rose Alcida Blanchard and Ken Erker welcome their daughter, whom they named Aurora Raina Erker. On February 27th of 2025, Gypsy and Ken do People magazine, talking about their birth story, Gypsy's birth experience, her upcoming parole end date, and their future plans. What a lot of people don't know is the CEO of the A&E network cut ties and did not want to renew Gypsy Rose for a season 3 of her reality show, Gypsy Rose Life After Lockup. In March of 2025, Gypsy Rose and Ken Erker go to Los Angeles once again, where TMZ is called to the airport to speak to Gypsy again. On March 5th of 2025, Gypsy Rose and Ken Erker do a sit-down interview with Access Hollywood, where they speak about being new parents and future plans. Also, on March 5th of 2025, Gypsy does a sit-down video interview with Loose Women, which exclusively aired on their YouTube channel. On March 9th of 2025, Gypsy Rose Blanchard does a sit-down video interview with Friedland TV. This interview is one that not a lot of people have seen or know about. The very next day, on March 10th of 2025, Lifetime Network, which is owned by the A&E Network, releases Season 2 Gypsy Rose Life After Lockup. Because she broke her contract and her NDA with Lifetime and the A&E network, they cut all ties and ended the possibility of a season 3 because Gypsy Rose proved herself a legal liability. It'll be very rare if mainstream media ever chooses to work with Gypsy Rose Blanchard again. Not only because of this fact, but the backlash. On March 24th of 2025, Gypsy Rose Blanchard does a sit-down interview with 60 Minutes Australia. However, this was filmed when she was still pregnant prior to December of 2024. It just aired later. On June 25th of 2025, Gypsy does a video interview sit down for the podcast by Tori Spelling called Miss Spelling. However, only part 1 aired on this date. On June 30th of 2025, part 2 of her interview with Tori Spelling airs. It's also important to note that when part 1 airs, Gypsy was getting off of parole, which she did successfully do. July 12th of 2025, Gypsy Rose Blanchard does an interview with ABC News. She speaks to them via phone, but they use old footage from previous interviews with her to run this interview. On October 15th of 2025, her ex-husband Ryan Anderson does a sit-down with Sarah Fraser for The Sarah Fraser Show, which you can find on all of her social platforms. On December 28th of 2025, Gypsy Rose Alcida Blanchard and Ken Erker celebrate their daughter's first birthday and Gypsy's 2-year anniversary from being released from prison. January 15th of 2026, Ryan Anderson sits down with Sarah Fraser a second time because she has a lot of questions regarding the Freedom of Information Act request and all of the videos pertaining to the very sexually explicit videos that Gypsy Rose was sending to Nicholas Godejohn and vice versa. On January 30th, 2026, Gypsy Rose Blanchard does the podcast called Nobody Should Believe Me with Andrea Dunlop. Like most podcast interviews, this is only part 1. The podcast Nobody Should Believe Me with Andrea Dunlop, part 2, is not yet released, nor does it have a release date. As of January of 2026, Gypsy Rose Blanchard announced that she herself will have a podcast. She also claims on her Linktree that she is an advocate, an author, and Gypsy Rose has also created a website. Her public defender turned manager has no longer a business relationship with Gypsy Rose Blanchard since she got off parole. Gypsy Rose now claims that she handles all of her own business inquiries. Gypsy Rose Blanchard, via her Instagram page, has dropped a very few short clips regarding her podcast, yet it's still to be determined whether or not this podcast is going to ever take place. And this does not cover any of the social media nor the mainstream media website articles that have been ran during this time. And this is what I call the Gypsy Rose Blanchard agenda. As of today, February 5th, 2026, Gypsy's interview with Andrea Dunlop for her podcast, Nobody Should Believe Me, officially aired.
5. Keep making content.
Let me know what you think down in the comment section. I hope you all have a fantastic week and weekend. And if you liked my video, don't forget to subscribe, like, turn on notifications, and share.